Good evening. Good morning, actually. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have you here at Hightop Game Day. I believe it's our 4th or 5th annual Hightop Game Day. It's been an absolute blast. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today. It's going to be a big one. I can't wait to see how it all rolls down. Of course, we have a massive rivalry today. Oklahoma versus the Texas Longhorns. Horns up, baby. You guys know how I roll. We've got an Oklahoma fan on here today. Excited to hear what he has to say. We've been talking smack all week. Should be a good one. Georgia versus Kentucky could be a real lineup to see how the SEC East is going to go. This could determine who the champion is going to be, or at least who's going to represent the East. A lot of people are high in Kentucky. We're going to solve all that out. Is Kentucky the real deal? Or is Georgia or was Florida just kind of a fluke and Kentucky looked a lot better than they should have? Obviously, Bama starting to get on a little bit of a roll here. I kind of talked last week that they concern me a little bit. I've been questioning it, but last week really put me over the edge that they're going to have some success. We're going to talk about that. Before we get into any of that, let's say hey to everybody here. Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing? Jake, Ty, and Jason?
What up?
Cannot complain, man. Saturday is here.
It's Kill Texas Day, bro. I'm excited. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man.
I'm ready to go. It's
going to be a good one. Even Cody, we were talking before the show. So week 4 was a highlight weekend. Remember that weekend? It was, jam-packed full of, it had the rankings, it had the hype behind it, but it didn't really fall through. The games really kind of fell flat. I feel like last week was a great week, but this week, we're right in the middle of conference play. So everybody's playing at least some cheddar to it. In the SEC, there's a lot of question marks, and we were going through some of the games. Anything's wide open. Right? You got obviously Texas, Oklahoma, going to be a big matchup. Mizzou, LSU, anybody could win. A&M, Bama. A&M's not ranked, but it's a 2-point spread. This week's wide open. I think this week has a lot of love to it, more than maybe that week 4 does. But we'll see how it plays out, and I'll see you guys in just a minute here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's get this show started. Let's move on over to this Alabama versus Texas A&M game, which I think if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, was it going to be this exciting, I would have said no. But that's the way of college football. Things get hyped up. Let's get it. Mr. Ty Hayes, Alabama. Look, man, I talked about him last week playing Mississippi State, knocking them out 40-17. We talked last week when you were on the show. I said this typically is the game that Bama beats up Mississippi State either after a bad loss or before a big weekend. This is their Vandy in a sense for Florida, for our Florida fans that are watching the show. And they look like the Bama of old, running all over the football field. You had Nick Saban cussing people out. Milroe finally looked comfortable. And I started talking on our Sunday show. I said, people should be nervous because at a time we think, hey, college football is wide open, that's usually when Bama goes, hold my beer. Let me get things figured out. I got to back off the horse a little bit. I've been kind of pressing you saying, hey, should we panic? And you kept telling me no. I got to give you your flowers for holding strong, and you got to be feeling good going into this week for Alabama.
Man, I'm feeling good, but at the same time, I got to give Texas A&M their flowers as well. The only loss they have right now is to a Miami team that Tyler Van Dyke is playing a high level of football right now. Right, even if you're not convinced as to who Miami is, let's call a spade a spade. Tyler Van Dyke is playing really well. That's their loss. When I look at this A&M team, man, their defense is different in terms of what they can do for their defensive front. They have so much talent, and Alabama's offensive line, quite frankly, has been pain. Right, even last week, they're still trying to figure things out. They really got it going, but this A&M defensive front is not that Mississippi State defensive front. They are much better. They are much more talented. They're much stronger, faster, more physical. That being said, the Alabama offense, man, it has been so much fun to watch. I think they're going to get some key pieces back. Or I'm sorry, the defense. The offense is pain. The defense has been so much fun to watch. They're going to get some key pieces back. I feel good. But I also completely agree, as y'all were explaining spreads to me and everything completely in the green room. I do agree that this is such a close game, right? I think Texas A&M is a real big challenge. I think after the Texas game, I told you on this show that, looking forward, outside of LSU, is there another team that you're like, that team is as complete as the Texas Longhorns in terms of what they can do offensively? And now I don't think that the LSU defense is on the level of the Texas defense. That's something I didn't think I'd be saying, but they gave up 700 yards. It is what it is. Texas A&M is that team. Max Johnson's playing really well right now, but I like the Alabama defense to be able to remain strong, get some key turnovers, and Milroe just to make plays when they need to be made.
So this A&M team, I've got into some beef on Twitter. I mean, that's kind of how I handle my business on Twitter. If I disagree, I'll let you know. A&M I was not high on, and after that Miami game, I felt that I was right. But I've been proven wrong. I think they have found their rhythm, and that is scary for a Bama team that it's a rivalry in a sense. And look, the spread is 2. We explained that to you in the green room, like you said, which tells us it's close. That's practically a pick 'em. I felt it's a little disrespectful, but A&M has proven to really find themselves over the last few weeks. And although I believe Bama has separated themselves, it's still they've got to do it back-to-back weeks to be consistent. Although they did handle their business against Ole Miss, it still was, Bama's still trying to find itself. You can't beat USF 17-3 and think that it's the Bama of old. And look, like you said, A&M has really, came together. Max Johnson is doing a phenomenal job. I feel like Connor Weeman might have been their best case scenario for them when he played in that Auburn game. I was like, man, they got lucky there with their backup quarterback. But your thoughts, though, again, on Saban, do you feel, and you're very humble pie. I love it. You're not going to come out here swinging, although you are rocking the Steve Jobs turtleneck today, so there's got to be a little swagger behind you. You know what I'm saying?
I got a little something for you.
You got a little something. I like it. The nice early morning swagger. I love it. But look, last week I really felt that Saban found the groove again. Miss Terry said, hey, you need to go get on them boys, and on them boys he did. And look, they look like the Bama of old, running the football very effectively. Milroe it felt like, again, something they talked with Bryce Young. They almost leaned on him too much because you had so much talent at quarterback that you kind of got away from who you were. You got away from your identity, which is something that Florida's struggling with, an identity crisis. It looked like it clicked last week, which if that's happening in Alabama right now, for everyone else, we've got to be concerned. I want to have a little cockiness from you, Ty. You feel a little more confident, or are you still on the ropes here?
Well, I'm certainly feeling more confident, and I think Jalen Milroe's confidence as the game went on is what's giving me confidence. And it's not just Jalen Milroe, it's also Tommy Rees, right? I think one thing we need to understand, at Alabama, you have a new quarterback, you have a really young offensive coordinator, and he's never worked with a quarterback with the skill set that Jalen Milroe has. And so it's a learning process throughout. But seeing him stand in the pocket, man, and make good decisions against Mississippi State. I know people can point to the yards and the lack of attempts, and that's all well and good. That's fair. But watch the attempts he did have, and it wasn't the same where even against Ole Miss, they tried so many times to bait him into interceptions, and he just wasn't making those bad decisions outside the one against Ole Miss. That's what's giving me confidence, man. The offensive line's playing a bit better, but we're really going to figure out today. I can't say in full confidence that, hey, the Alabama offensive line has arrived after they trample Mississippi State. I'll tell you that if they trample this Texas A&M front, then I'm going to be a problem on this platform if they trample Texas A&M's front. But I do feel a lot better, man, especially coming off of some of the concerns off of that USF game. The team is starting to find themselves, and that gives me a lot of confidence, because if I thought this offense was still completely out of sorts, this would be a much more concerning game.
So let me ask you about that offensive line, because Caden Proctor was a big flip for you guys last year. I follow recruiting pretty closely, obviously, especially with the Florida Gators, but you see all of it that's going down. Proctor was originally committed to Notre Dame, made a last-minute flip. Is that right? Was it Iowa?
Iowa.
Okay.
You're thinking of Keon Keeley, the number 2 player in the nation who was the edge. He was committed to Notre Dame and then last
okay, so it's Keon Keeley. Okay, so I got him confused then. So Keon Keeley has not seen the field yet, correct?
No, but that's also because that Alabama outside linebacker room might be the most talented room in all of football. You have former 5-star Chris Braswell, former 5-star Dallas Turner, former 5-star Alexander, former 5-star Keon Keeley, Yonze Pierre, and then you get into Quindarius Robinson, who is number 36 in the nation, Keanu Cott, who is number 101 in the nation, and that's even before you get to like Keeley. So there's 4 or 5 5-stars just in the waiting at outside linebacker edge.
The irony for me to say I followed recruiting and completely butchered that.
That's a lot, man. Yeah, it's
a lot
wild.
of names. It's so Caden Proctor though. I showed the graphic last week, and he's a freshman, mind you guys. He's part of this trio of offensive linemen that average. They're bigger than any NFL line, I believe, or almost right. All NFL, right? Their height and weight is bigger than any NFL line. And this kid's and Proctor's a freshman. It's unreal. Which again, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, man, we might want to be nervous. quick.
Yeah, he's learning, man. He got really thrown into the fire against Texas. They went after him. But he had a lot better game last week against Mississippi State, and especially in terms of the mental aspect of it.
Sure.
Mississippi State ran several different stunts trying to take advantage of his youth, and watching him be able to successfully identify and pass off between them, that was really nice to see. Really like to see. But we'll see. Once again, man, today provides a great challenge to really see where your former 5-star offensive tackle is. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think, look, the conversation of Bama and the, hey, we should be nervous about them is really going to either solidify itself today, or we're going to kind of be in the same boat we've been in this whole week, these past few weeks of, hey, it's college football, it's wide open. If Bama goes in and thinks that I think that what they're going to do, I think it's going to put everybody on notice that, hey, I know they lost to Texas, but Texas could be really, really good, especially if Texas beats Oklahoma. A lot of things could get rolling here where we might start seeing a better trend of where, who is truly the best team. But it's still really early. But this is what we like to do. We like to figure it out and talk about it. Ty, I appreciate you, man. Don't go anywhere. We're going to get you back on here. And
I got something planned for you. I got a little surprise for you. We're going to have fun.
Look at this. So there's more than just the turtleneck? We got more than that?
There's more than just the turtleneck.
All right. I love it. We'll see you in a minute, big guy. Alabama, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, going to be a big one today. We're going to get into it and ask this guy's opinion here in just a moment about which pick'ems they think is going to rock and roll. Obviously, that's a 2-point spread. I think it's a little disrespectful to some of those guys, to the Bama and A&M, but we'll see how it plays out anyways. I think Jake, he'll be on here for his parlay corner when he hops into the lab to talk about that spread and what he thinks is going to play out. But let's bring all the gentlemen in here right now. Let's discuss a few pick'ems before we get into Jake Crane and the Georgia Bulldogs. So let me add these guys here right now. Jason, you want to turn your screen on, Sweet Pea? Although your profile picture is much cuter than that face. Gentlemen, so what we're going to do, we're going to spice things up a little bit. We're going to add 2 games real quick. We're going to do 6 pick'ems today. First order of business is going to be the Dogs versus the Cats. For anybody at home is unaware of the spread, as Ty informed us earlier, the Dogs are favored by 14, meaning they are starting down 14.5 points. So the score going into it essentially is minus 14-0. They've got to win by 14 or more, 14.5 or more to get the W. So a lot of hype behind this game for the Cats. A lot of people were picking the Wildcats to possibly upset the Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. I think it's complete blasphemy, but I want to hear from you guys. Ty, I'll let you go first. Who are you taking and why are you taking them?
I'm taking Georgia, and the reason is this, man. I like what Kentucky is doing. Ray Davis is wild in how good he is. But it's one of those things where you're going to have to show me that you're going to find success running into the teeth of a Kirby Smart defense and really relying on that to be able to move mountains. Leary has the ability, but it's kind of been an up and down season for him thus far. I think against Florida, he had less than 70 yards through the air. Not that it mattered, but I just don't think that that's a winning recipe against a Kirby Smart defense. I'm going to take Georgia in this. Yeah. And I think maybe that's just me being stubborn, but I just don't think the way to beat that defense is running right into it.
And you think they win by 14 or more? Just
that's the part well,
that's what you got to pick.
I'm going to take 14 then. Yeah. I'm going to take them in cover.
We're introducing Ty to spread, boys. We're turning them into
I just know football, man.
By the minute. Jason?
Yeah, you don't out Georgia in Athens. You know, styles make fights here, Shelton. I don't think that this is one of those games. I know a lot of people are looking at this as a possibility, especially after the way they played last week on the Plains. A lot of weird things happen on the Plains out there, and I would just tell you that kind of the same way that Michigan tried to out Georgia in the college football playoff 2 years ago, and it got them clapped. So, I would say the same kind of thing here. If Devin Leary doesn't go out there and have a monster game, they don't just lose by 14.5. They lose by freaking 40. I don't see it going down. So,
Jake?
Yeah, look, Kentucky's been a great story. Everybody's hyping them up. It's people are kind of doubting Georgia, but, Little Red Riding Hood was a great story. Hansel and Gretel was a great story. And we know what happened at the end of that. So, look, and we talked about it all week on Crane & Company, and it's something I'm going to hit on when we talk about it in a second. Georgia's quote unquote weakness against the run. I think it's kind of a little bit of a fallacy because it's really come against quarterbacks that can run, right? I mean, even UAB, the kid had like 22 yards on 7 carries, had a touchdown, but the quarterback could put pressure on the exterior, right? Kentucky is an in-the-box, power, counter, gap scheme run team, and Georgia's eyes aren't going to be manipulated as much. But I do think that Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator at Kentucky, who was there 2 years ago with Will Levis and Wan'Dale Robinson, who looks like the only good player on the Giants right now that's not hurt, went back to the Rams, now came back. He's a Sean McVay disciple. Their big motion, their big play action. And if you take away that run game, that play action game, I think they're like 33% play action, is not going to hit. They're going to be one-dimensional. Muddy Waters, I say I agree with you 100%. I think that's 100% correct. Devin Leary cannot run them on the outside. You're going to probably get a lot of jet sweep motions. They're going to try and manipulate Georgia's eyes, get them going side to side so they can hit him in the middle. But I don't think Georgia takes the bait. I don't think Kentucky can score enough. And I think this is the weekend where Georgia finally becomes who they're really going to be.
Agree. I love it. Yeah, I think the hype behind Kentucky is a little much. And look, Florida didn't do them did them a lot of favor last week. And we have a question kind of later on about that. So I don't want to drag that on too more. And let's do one more game before we move on to our next segment. We're going to do a few more games too later on, so don't go anywhere. But obviously, the Tiger versus the Tigers, the old showdown in Mizzou. Keep that in mind. We got Mizzou who's undefeated coming here 5-0. Tigers now have 2 losses under their belt. Got more questions about this game later on. I'm going to start with you, Jason. The Tigers are favored by 5.5. Ty, that means they're starting behind 5.5 to 0, basically -5.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So they're on the road here at Mizzou. I think Mizzou is fraudulent too, man. This is not one of those games that I know that they've kind of come out. They beat K-State. We saw Okie Light freaking beat K-State last night. I don't buy Mizzou so much. I mean, and in the West, I mean, the East has not been good. So, they may creep up there into the top 2 or 3, but what does that really mean? I think that if you look at what they really are at the end of the season, they're probably going to still end up around 500 somewhere. And I still think as much as LSU has kind of underachieved themselves, they've got a couple of losses to really good teams. So to me, I think that this is still LSU's going to win this game. Mizzou's not that good.
Jake?
Well, look, I don't know why we have mascots on teams that there's no Tigers walking around Missouri or LSU. That's a story for another day. I don't know why we don't do it like the NFL, but same thing at Auburn.
Tiger King.
I mean, I'm talking about that are indigenous from there. I mean, we didn't just walk in there. There's a bunch of tigers running around, Independence, Missouri. When I look at this game, it's hard not to look in and say it's going to be not going to be a shootout, right? Missouri's like 101st in pass defense, and LSU's offense is hotter than a fat kid in a first sleeping bag right now. When you look at LSU's defense, I mean, they're going to a 4-down front. But I mean, they were lining up 1.5 yards off the ball last week. It looks like they're overthinking and they're not playing physical. I like Georgia to cover the first game. I think Missouri covers this. I think LSU wins by a field goal. I think they kick a field goal to win it. I think it's going to be a track meet. I'm interested to see if Missouri tries to limit LSU's possessions by maybe going slower. But typically, head coaches that are quarterbacks and offensive guys like Eli Drinkwitz, they don't want to cut off their nose to spite their face. So give me LSU to win, but Missouri to cover the 5.5.
Huge. Ty?
Yeah, I think what Jake said right there is exactly my big problem in this game is the fact that when I look at Missouri, I think they're going to want to go fast. I completely agree with you. I don't think they're going to be willing to slow it down to try and give themselves that assistance because I think Drinkwitz is going to look at it and say he's got a quarterback that's cooking right now and he's got Luther Burden, who is putting all of college football on notice, quite frankly. But I think LSU gets this. Now, once again, I don't know that they win by 5.5, right? I just don't see that happening because I don't know what LSU's defense is. We saw them against Ole Miss. I don't know if they're just average or bad. And we're going to find out what this LSU defense is. The secondary has been tested. I think they had yet another injury going into this game in that secondary. So we'll see what it means. But give me LSU to win, but I think they win very close.
Good stuff. Well, hey, great takeaways there. I like Mizzou to cover as well. I think Mizzou actually is the truth. I think they brought a lot of talent back, and the Tigers just have looked beatable. And in Mizzou, it's not a fun place to play. It's miserable. I think Eli and the boys have find a way to get it done. They've been recruiting pretty well for Mizzou standards, and this could be kind of another turning point for them where they can pull some more plugs. We're going to go back now. Thank you, gentlemen, for your thoughts and your takes there on those games. Moving on, we were gonna talk Auburn, but they have a bye this week, so we're gonna talk a little bit of Auburn, but also this Georgia-Kentucky game with Mr. Jake Crane. Let's go. So we got Georgia behind us. I know obviously you're an Auburn fan, but you saw them play last week. Real quick though, your thoughts on the Auburn? You expect them to lose? Was it better than you thought though?
Yeah, I mean, it was way better. Look, I mean, typically, and there's been some games where it's been blowouts. That game is the Deep South, the oldest rivalry. I don't think people realize there is a lot of vitriol where Athens is closer to Auburn than Tuscaloosa is to Auburn. So, I mean, Auburn's right in the east, right on the border of Georgia. Look, Auburn didn't have the personnel right now. I think the coaches and the players had to basically pitch a perfect game to be able to win that game. And this isn't the strongest Georgia team that they've had in the past 3 years. So I thought it would be, I thought it would be somewhat tight. I thought it would be 10 points. The fact that Auburn jumped out to that lead and they weren't able to keep it, obviously, but if you were a recruit there at the game, and there's a lot of them, you can legitimately, if you're on that Auburn coaching staff, and I talked to a couple of the guys after the game, go to them and say, listen, we are one player away. We are you away. We are a playmaker away from being able to not only compete with Georgia, who's number one in the country, but beat them. So look, there's no, I always say the standard of losing at Auburn should never be acceptable, just like losing at Florida should never be acceptable, but reality should always be acceptable. You got to know where the program is. You got to know what you're going up against. So I thought they fought their ass off. And that's all you can ask them to do. And they stayed in the fight for a while, just weren't able to make the plays at the end.
I couldn't agree more. I think you nailed it on the head. You came out here, they were 14-point dogs that game, and you thought that Auburn would cover. You said, hey, they're going to come out slow. They're going to protect Carson Beck a little bit and allow for him to get comfortable going into a hostile environment. And it basically played out just like you said it would. The one thing I will state, and let's kind of transition into Georgia now, that's who you're representing this week, is, look, great teams find a way to win, and that's exactly what they did last week. I know everyone's, Brock Bowers obviously had a massive game, but Carson Beck in a way found himself, and now you're going back home after playing on the road in an extremely hostile environment against a team that is, coming in extremely hot. We kind of, prefaced it a little bit. Georgia, I think, is going to find itself this week against Kentucky and really start to separate itself. I feel like the last 2 years, the narrative has been the same for Georgia, that are they going to be able to do the same thing? It's not the same team from last year, but as time goes on, they have an elite talent pool of guys that go to Georgia, and you keep letting them win football games. Eventually, they're going to be sitting there 11-0, 12-0, on the inside looking out to the rest of us.
Yeah, well, look, I think Kirby does a really good job. And if you take your bias hat off and you look at it, Kirby's one of the best in the country. His teams get better as the year goes on, right? And they have the luxury of, they have enough talent where they can develop while winning. And that's what we're seeing right now. Now, when you look at the slow starts, Kirby's going to be running around at practice, I'm sure, all week this week. He ran around at practice with that bullhorn, screaming, we got to start faster, screaming, we got to stop the run. You heard it in meetings. But this year, to this point, that's different than last year, Kirby's not having to manipulate adversity, right? People are still doubting Georgia. So Kirby last year had to pull a rabbit out of the hat and try and convince them that everybody thought they weren't going to win when we all thought they were going to win. This year, he doesn't have to do that, which is dangerous, right? Carson Beck, and listen, nobody gets better protection than Carson Beck, okay? I mean, it's a walk-in Progressive commercial. I mean, that nobody gets close to him. He's completing 72% of his passes. He's averaging over 250 yards a game, and he's had at least 20 completions a game. I don't think there's another quarterback in the country that has those numbers and that consistency. But Kentucky, to me, and Mark Stoops, I always joke about Kentucky, nobody does more with less than Mark Stoops, and nobody does less with more than John Calipari. It's unbelievable. It really is at the same place, how they can be on opposite ends of the spectrum. But I don't trust Devin Leary when Georgia stops the run, because like Ty said, like we've talked about, they're an inside-the-box running team. You are going to get some jet sweep motions. They're going to have to do something on the perimeter. Do they do what South Carolina did early against Georgia and say, listen, we know we're not going to probably be able to run the ball in the box consistently, so we need to spit out the quick pass game and supplement the run game with that? Is that what they're going to do? Liam's going to have a plan, right? But when it comes down to it, I don't think Devin Leary can hurt Georgia enough on any design runs, on any RPO runs, on any zone read runs, or any scramble drill runs when the play breaks down. And if you can't extend drives like that, that Kentucky defense is going to be on the field longer. Lad McConkey's getting healthy. Brock Bowers is from Planet Krypton, but they need Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett and these guys to come on. Like you have to start playing good. Like they have no touchdowns in between them. All we heard with Georgia was, oh, they don't have elite wide receivers. Oh, they don't have elite. Oh, here comes Dominic Lovett from Missouri. Imagine if they still had him, by the way. Here comes Ra Thomas from Mississippi State. So now they have these elite weapons. Well, they haven't shown up yet. It's been Brock Bowers and Rosamie-Jack-Saint and, a decent run game. I just don't think this matchup is good for Kentucky. And like Jason said, styles make fights. And all Georgia's heard is about how Kentucky's going to go in there and win. I mean, it's a night game, I believe. So, whoo. Now I'm taking Georgia to ride right into the night, to the mists of ancient Babylon.
I think I can't, dude. The big thing too, if you go back to those games they played thus far, South Carolina came out, kind of punched them in the mouth, but Spencer Rattler played exceptional. He's been playing pretty damn well all season long, outside the fact they haven't been able to get it done, but he's running for his life in every game that he's playing in. So you had that factor, which is with a great quarterback play. Then you go to Auburn, played some extreme elite defense, in my opinion, and Peyton Thorne played much better than he did the week before, and you and I talked about that. He had to play better, looked much better. They ran the ball better. They looked in control. Something Kentucky has is a great defense. They've got a solid run game, but they have a huge hole and a weak point. Like we said, it's Devin Leary. He hasn't looked exceptional. Even against Florida, he went 9 for 20 for 96 yards. It's embarrassing to even state that stat and go look at the scoreboard and the box stat. I'm like, how did you guys lose this game? We suck. Is basically the best way to summarize what happened. But you're going into a scenario now where it's like, look, the Cats have looked good. Florida, in a way, made them look even better. This conversation, I believe, shouldn't even be as close as it is.
Yeah, and it's a cool narrative, right? Everybody loves the underdog.
Sure.
They love the story. They love the storyline. And Georgia's kind of been that big bad bully on the hill for the past couple of years, like Florida was under Urban Meyer for a couple of years. Everybody roots against him. You're everybody's Super Bowl. You're going to get everybody's best shot. So yeah, I think Devin Leary, a lot of what he has done and the success that he has had when they've had success through the air has been off play action because the run game's good. Well, what happens when now he has to throw them to keep them in the game? What happens if they're down 17-3 or 20-3 halfway through the third quarter and they can't just line up and run counter and they can't just line up and run power, and Georgia's starting to lean on them with that offensive line in the run game and their play action game? I just don't. And Devin Leary has a bad habit of when he makes mistakes, they're disastrous mistakes. They're not like, oh, I had a fender bender. It's, oh no, we Thelma Louise off a cliff. Like there's no really in between with him, especially when he's under pressure. And I see Brendan in the chat. I agree with you. Georgia has great linebackers. They have great safeties. The linebackers are in the box. That's what I'm talking about. It's the box versus the box. And I'm going to take Georgia's box over Kentucky's box, even though there's no Jalen Carter, there's no Jordan Davis. It's not exactly still a walk through the tulips in that front seven.
Now I want to ask you as another creator as well. A lot of creators this week, and not just professional, I'm talking like, other YouTube creators that are picking this game, have selected Kentucky. Kentucky used it as a hype video for them and saying like, look, this is close. Yeah, Kentucky made a little hype video clipping up their verbiage of like, look, I like Kentucky here. It's going to be close. Kentucky look good. Kentucky's 5-0. And do you feel that we as content creators have in a way we create this narrative to hype up a game that may or may not should be hyped up, and in a way hurt Kentucky because we've now created this amp up of it's like, well, Georgia's like, what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, look, again, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, Kirby's gonna find it. You could be some dude that's just talking like in the basement of your mom's duplex or whatever, and he's gonna find it. Be like, look, let me tell you what Trevor said. All right. Trevor doesn't think we're worth a damn. But I think sometimes people look like with us at Crane & Company. I know with you guys, I'm going to tell you what I really think. I'm not over here sitting like, all right, if I say Kentucky's going to win, all right, they're going to go crazy. They're going to love it. I want to be right. Sure. I would rather be right than Dr. Seuss this thing. And again, the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then. You may get one of them. But if I think like Washington State today, 3.5-point dog, I think Washington State's going to win. I think they're going to win, not because it's cool to say. It's because I really think they're going to win. I don't think Kentucky's going to win. It's just like when you're talking about your own team, because we're all fans of somebody. Like nobody's harder on Auburn than me. I'm not going to sit here and say Auburn's going to beat Georgia because I want them to. I said Georgia's going to beat Auburn because I think that's what's going to happen. And we have a saying, win the water cooler. That's what we want to do. I would rather be right than first or just going out there reaching, because guess what's going to happen, right? Guess what? When they get beat, when you were on there talking about Kentucky, here's why they're going to win, okay? I mean, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this, we're going to pour it in that. I'm just going to get there. There's going to be an alien invasion. Have with you a second. No, you're going to look like you don't know what you're talking about. Not saying you always have to be right or get it right. It's called a bandwagon, man. People are jumping on this bandwagon, and who the hell knows? Who really the hell knows? But I'm going to tell you what I really think over just like Kentucky, because you want to know why? Because screw it, that's why.
To be fair, I'm bad about that when it comes to the Florida Gators. I'm not going to ever pick against them. And look, I face the music, but I'm completely cool with it, right? Well,
if you can explain it like in a way that's like, I just don't know how you sit there and you look at the way Kentucky plays.
Yeah, you
and
can't.
You look at the way that Georgia plays, and you're just like, yeah, Kentucky's definitely got the advantage. Yeah, when you look at it, it's not just looking at a box score, right? It's not just looking at the percentage of this time per echo rate, they're finishing drives at this, that, and the other. It's just, looking at it and seeing the matchups. This game it's a matchup game. Games are won by players while coaches watch and talk about it. And it'll always be that way.
I love it. Jay Crane, thank you, boss. We'll see you here shortly when we pick a few more games. I appreciate you as always. Buddy. Good stuff there with Mr. Jay Crane. Georgia and the Cats taking it on today. Again, I have been beating the drum in the sense that the hype behind Kentucky coming in and doing anything. I understand why. Florida fueled that fire, and Kentucky is looking much better. A lot of people have them going 11-1 last year. I know people pick them to go 11-1 this year. I'm not trying to be a hater. I can't look as a Florida fan. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I can't say too much, but it's still Kentucky. Let's not get crazy. But look, they're looking better than they have. I think they've got a great team. I think Devin Leary gives them an opportunity to win. It gives them a chance more than what they would have in the past. You're not walking into Athens in a nighttime game and taking down the two-time defending champion just because you rush for 300 yards on a team that doesn't know their head from their ass currently. And look, that's me taking a dump on the Florida Gators. And look, that's where we're at right now. So it is what it is. Let's get the boys back in here. And let's pick two more games before we head into the big Red River rivalry. Horns up, boys.
Say that 3 times fast.
I always get concerned when I say it, then I'm just going to just trip on the microphone. But been practicing all week, so glad that we're here. First order of business, Red River rivalry. I'm going to start with Jake. We're going to close it out with Jason. Texas is favored by 5 in the Cotton Bowl. Jake, talk to me.
God, I just put this game on a pillow and smother me to death with it. I can't wait. Look, I think we know a lot more about Texas than we do about Oklahoma, right? Texas has been tested a little more, but sometimes that's not a great advantage, right? Like a lot of people didn't know much about Texas before they played Bama. And in that big game, Texas got up and we kind of found out who they were. Oklahoma could do the same thing. This Oklahoma team is different than me this year. Obviously, it's year 2 with Brent Venables. But last year, it seemed defensively that they lacked the athletes. Like if you would get to the second level against that Oklahoma defense, whether it be in the pass or the run, it would turn into a 70-yard touchdown. Well, this year it looks like athletically they can turn those big plays into 30-yard plays, those 80-yard plays into 40-yard plays, those 40-yard plays into 15-yard plays. And that's how you make offenses have to run more plays to be more efficient, right? The more plays you run, the less likely you are to be able to score. When I look at the matchup offensively versus defensively, my biggest question for Oklahoma is, can Oklahoma run the ball? Because if Oklahoma cannot run the ball against a Texas defense in the front 7 went from Club Med to Judge Dredd, I think we can all agree with that this year, then they're going to be one-dimensional. And I love Jeff Levy. He's an absolute 100% witch, and they can supplement the run game with the quick pass game. But if they're not able to legitimately run the ball and they get forced to be one-dimensional, I don't think they can score enough points to be able to beat Texas. I think Texas may get up in this game by a touchdown or 10 points early. Oklahoma's going to fight back, but Oklahoma has the advantage of the chip on the shoulder. They beat our ass to death last year. Nobody believes that we're any good because we haven't played anybody yet. But this game, make no mistake, is going to come down to who can score touchdowns in the red zone. Texas has the #1 red zone defense in the country. That, to me, is a huge stat.
So you're taking Texas -5.
I'm taking Texas and the under 60.5.
I love it. Look, I think Oklahoma is a weirdly ranked football team. Nobody knows where to put them because of the teams they have played. But look, in the defense, I know I kind of shit on Oklahoma all the time. I feel like they've done their job, and what I mean by is they've walked in, they've played the teams like they should have, they've covered their spread, they've done their job. The Cincinnati game, in my opinion, was the only game of question that looked a little close at times. If they had a quarterback and not Emory Jones back there, could have been closer, but doesn't matter. They went and did their job. I think they really solidified themselves last week against Iowa State. Ty, over to you, big guy. How you taking it?
Yeah, to both of y'all's points, even though Oklahoma may not have played in Alabama yet, you can only play who's on your schedule, and you should only handle them in the manner you're supposed to. And I use this example all the time over on my channel. Alabama played USF, and USF took them to the wire. Oklahoma has been kicking the teeth in of teams. They're obviously a much better team this year than they were last year, right? And Jake has a great point about that defense. You can just see them playing with much more confidence and understanding in terms of what Brent Venables wants to do within that scheme. Now, offensively, there's an interesting stat with this game that if we look at the last 20 games that Texas and Oklahoma have played in this matchup, the team that wins the rushing battle wins the game. Right now, Texas is coming in here with a guy, Jonathan Brooks, that has gone over 100 yards 3 weeks in a row. If we look at the season, I think he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry, but in these last 3 weeks, he's averaging over 8 yards per carry. He has put the team on his back. That's going to allow Sark to go deeper in his bag. Texas's defensive front is really impressive. Oklahoma has not had that run game that they really relied on last year. And one thing we know about this Levy-style veer and shoot offense is that success on first down is paramount. I tracked this last year, and it was alarming how often Oklahoma's drives ended in no or negative results if they didn't get like 3 yards on first down. So it is paramount for them to find first down success to get everything moving. What I will say is I don't think Texas has played a team that can test their secondary in the manner that Oklahoma will. And I think Oklahoma is going to shock a lot of people when they do find success testing this Texas secondary. But at the end of the day, I think the running game is what's going to find Texas a win. Give me the Texas Longhorns, and I'm going to go, I think they win by 3.
So you're taking Sooners to cover then?
Yes.
Okay. I love this group. All right, I think that's it for that game.
And we're going to talk in a minute, so I don't really need to pick right here, do I?
That's fair. Good point, Jason.
That is fair.
That is a good point. Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it for when you have your solo time. Let's go to Alabama. Texas A&M Aggies. Oh, $10 real quick. Happy Saturday, everyone. Great. Licking my wounds from last night's debacle in Stillwater. Well, thank you for the super chat there, Neilio. Hopefully I said that right. Okay, good. Let's start with you then on this game, Jason. Bama versus Alabama versus Texas A&M. Bama is favored by 2. Who you taking?
Yeah, I like Alabama here. I think that this is another one of those games we were talking about that everybody's, the trendy pick would be to go with A&M. It's still Jimbo Fisher. It's still Texas A&M. I don't buy them really. The one thing that you've got is that they are going to be at home. And that's a tough place to play. They beat them a couple of years ago. But you're certainly not sneaking up on anybody here in that case. And do you really believe that they're going to be able to do anything with this, with their offense, or even that Jimbo's really going to let Petrino really call the thing the whole way through? I don't. I think that Alabama finally found something in the last couple of weeks in their offense, and defensively, they're still one of the elite programs in the country. So, yeah, I've got it. I'm going to go with
good point there with if Jimbo gets a little wobbly at the knees and rips the reins out from Petrino, is he allowed to go through, because he hasn't really had to face any adversity outside that Miami game. So he hasn't had to make a quick decision on his feet. It's a good point. He doesn't want to lose to Daddy any more than he already has. Jake?
Well, I mean, Jimbo needs to stay off the field. I mean, he about tackled an Auburn guy during a turnover a couple weeks ago. Look, I think both of these teams, we expect them to be better running the ball coming into the year. I mean, all we heard coming out of fall camp was that, Alabama's offensive line was, going to go over and help stop the war against Ukraine and Russia, and they haven't been able to run the ball nearly as good as what people thought. And A&M too. I mean, A&M's got experienced, talented group. They've stacked recruiting class on recruiting class, especially up front. They haven't been able to run the ball really as well as what people thought. And listen, I know Bama ran the ball well against Mississippi State, but Mississippi State's turning into everybody's get-right game. I mean, when you look at it at the end of the day, they're going to kill Western Michigan probably today. That's going to be their get-right game. But if neither team can run the ball, then this game is going to come down to which quarterback, in my opinion, doesn't make the great plays, but doesn't make the huge mistake. Last week, Max Johnson was very turnover prone, but he does have the unteachable intangible, and that is experience in games like this. Jalen Milroe has yet to prove that in the 3-step and the 5-step drop back game, he can go through progressions and make the right decision with the ball. There will be times where he's able to take off and extend drives on 3rd and 5, 3rd and medium to 3rd and long with his legs, but he's not going to be able to out-athlete A&M like he did with Mississippi State. I'm interested to see how many quarterback design runs you get. So it's really going to be who can be the smartest with the ball. I think at the end of the day, that is Texas A&M, but the 3 things that I'm looking at in this game: 1, decision-making at quarterback, obviously. 2, field position, which that involves special teams. The biggest matchup in this game may be Randy Bond versus Will Reichert, 2 pretty good kickers. And 3, it's penalties. Alabama was better last week, but going on the road in a place like A&M at Kyle Field in College Station, I would not be shocked if you saw a bunch of controllable procedural penalties from Alabama, and that's going to get you in a lot of 3rd and long. So I actually like A&M to win this game.
What? You're not even taking the points.
No, straight up money line.
Leave them. Ty?
Yeah, sometimes you got to hit the gas pedal down and scream America.
Yeah, so I think A&M is going to be a fantastic test, and playing there is always tough. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take Alabama in this game, and for several different reasons. First and foremost, this Alabama defense is wild and how good they are. The thing with Texas A&M to this point, Max Johnson's experience is going to be what they rely on. But if they have trouble running the football and they're having some trouble getting some completions in the passing game, what are they going to turn to, right? That's what I'm super interested in, especially if Alabama gets Deontay Lawson back in this game, because they didn't have Deontay Lawson last week. And if you were watching that Alabama game, you might not have ever realized that one of the best linebackers in the nation wasn't playing in that game. Bama was on their 2nd and 3rd linebacker to try and account for that loss. I think he'll be back in this game. We've heard a lot of rumors about Milroe's health from everybody I've talked to. They say they are just that, rumors. I think that Jake makes a good point, but there are going to be times, because we see how aggressive this Texas A&M defensive front is, they will overextend. And if they overextend, Jalen Milroe is going to take off. Man hit a 10.44 in the 100-meter this offseason at Alabama. It's going to be tough to catch him if he gets a head full of steam rolling. And that's, I think, what's going to be the ultimate difference maker here. We talked about turnovers. Alabama is generating much more turnovers than is Texas A&M, but I think Jalen Milroe has also proved that he needs to eliminate the turnovers. So turnovers are key in this game. Special teams key. Give me Alabama to win, and I think they win by over 2. So they're going to cover. They're going to do everything they need to do.
Look at that. Ty's figuring out the spread, boys and girls. Growing up before our eyes.
Slowly.
Oh, no, Ty. Look, we'll have Ty live betting player props before the end of this.
Yeah, and y'all are going to come in.
I'm going to turn him
week.
into the biggest degenerate of all time.
Yeah. He's
going to be my Mona Lisa.
He's going to bring me on his show, and I'm just going to be like in the basement, just hair everywhere, like Charlie from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah,
like,
with the strings and the.
So I'm a sucker, man. I use my bookie, which my bookie is great for us in Florida because we can't, use other betting apps. So we don't have a fancy app. We've got to go on the website, still like archaic. Like
how in Florida is sports gambling not legal? Like out of all the states,
that's what I thought.
All the
states, everything.
I can sports gamble in Massachusetts, but I can't in Florida.
I don't know.
Goodness, come on, Ron, figure it out.
Yeah, Daddy DeSantis is dropping the ball. Look, those Seminoles don't play games. I think that's what it is. They're Hard Rock. Those guys control a lot more than I think we realize.
Y'all get a piece. Everybody gets a piece.
You're preaching to the choir. I'm just letting you know what I'm thinking. Where the holdup is. But I did find this app. It's better. It's like Price Picks, but it's Jake Paul's app where you can prop players basically over under fantasy points, yards, interceptions, etc. That's allowed here. I don't know how that's allowed, but betting on games is not. They have a fancy app. That has been my new addiction this past week is you get 4 or 5 it's only parlays because you have to pick 4 or 5 players to complete something. It's just complete heartbreak, but my goodness, is it addicting just watching that little bar go, and when you get the green check mark, it's bad. The fact that we're talking about it like it's like this shows that I have an extreme problem, but I'm okay with it. We'll be back to everyone here in just a moment to pick 2 more games. But the reason why we're all here to talk about the shitty team in Oklahoma and the greatest team in the country right now, the Texas Longhorns.
Way to get the mafia wound up. That a boy. That's good. Good stuff.
I gotta get her rowdy. Jason, we're waiting for this all week. Oklahoma versus the Longhorns, the number one team in the country. You and I have a side.
Whoa. Did you just say number one team in the country?
Rant. Let me finish my rant. My goodness. The number one team in the country, the Texas Longhorns, are going at it this week. And look, it's gonna be a tough one here. This has got to shape the future for the Big 12. Obviously, you and I have our side bet going on. The side bet, though, is in regards to USC. So this is big for me this weekend. USC's got a cakewalk. It's whoever wins more games, because obviously Lincoln Riley being the top 5 coach in the country, you think that he's going to lose more than Oklahoma. So with that being said, you had a dominant win against Iowa State last week, which I think in a professor's corner, Cody had it a lot closer. Could be wrong, could be mistaken. How are we feeling going into this week?
I think that most Oklahoma fans feel pretty good about this. You've got a situation where Texas is coming in with all the pressure on Texas. They're number 3 in the country, not number 1, for God's sakes.
They're my number 1. They're number 1 in my heart. That's all that matters.
Whatever. They're number 3 coming into the game. A lot of people are picking them, like you are, as the best team in the country. You've even heard, there was a total circle jerk on the Barstool thing the other day about Texas. So it was, even the A&M chick was freaking picking Texas. That's a lot of pressure for a team that doesn't generally do well under pressure. They're hanging their hat on Alabama, the win over there at Alabama. I think that Alabama was not near the same team that they are today as far as what they look like. Offensively, they didn't have an identity whatsoever.
Fair.
In the end, they haven't come up against a defense like this. With all due respect to Ty in Alabama, I think that this defense is better than the one in Tuscaloosa. They're number 4 in scoring defense total overall. They're number 1 in interceptions. They're in the top 10 in takeaways overall, period. So this is a defense. They haven't given up a rushing touchdown at all this season, which is why, even though Jonathan Brooks has had a great last 3 weeks, again, they haven't really played anybody outside of Alabama either. They had struggled with Rice in the first week of the season. It was 10-10 going in the fourth quarter with Wyoming, who played a backup quarterback. They played a backup quarterback against Baylor. They struggled for the first half with Kansas and its backup quarterback. They're not exactly going out there and just mashing all the buttons that everybody acts like they are. And in the end, Dylan Gabriel comes in. He's one of the, you can say whatever you want about the schedule for Oklahoma. As Ty said, they handled their business. They've covered every week. Dylan Gabriel's one of the top quarterbacks in the country by every metric out there. He's right up there in QBR. He's thrown for as many touchdowns as anybody else. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns to go with it as well. And the one thing that the place that guaranteed there's going to be, well, and this is not a place that most people thought would have said coming into the season would have been an advantage for Oklahoma, but they have receivers. If you try to shut down one, they've got 2 more that are going to pop up. The last couple of weeks, you've seen big stuff coming from, well, we're calling him Mr. Anderson these days, but Nick Anderson, along with Jaden Gibson as well. These are 2 big receivers. That secondary for Texas is a little bit small, and they're without their best cover guy as well. I see them being able to go out there if they can just run the ball well enough. And up until last week, actually, Oklahoma's running numbers as a team were better than Texas's until you have the 200-yard game by Jonathan Brooks. So honestly, that's kind of a toss-up there. Yeah, they're both really good on the defensive line. I like that Texas D-line on the interior a little more than I like Oklahoma's interior. But Oklahoma is one of the top teams in tackles for loss as well. They haven't had a ton of sacks, but you've had a lot of teams that have gone max protect on them because of the fact that they are getting so much pressure on the quarterback. In the end, I think that's what you have to do with this team. If you're going to beat Texas, you got to make sure that there's a dirty pocket for Quinn Ewers. That's what they've been doing a lot of. PJ Adebawari on the defensive end as a freshman is starting to come around. He's been really close to going big and getting a sack or 2, even with max protection. I expect that this is going to happen a lot this week. The secondary is heads above the one at Texas, at OU. again, they've got 10 interceptions on the season. They took one to the house last week. They had a couple of little gaffes that allowed them to get in the first 20 minutes. Missouri was able to score, or not Missouri, Iowa State was able to score a couple of long touchdowns, but both times the DB was in the area. They got a little greedy trying to get an interception instead of laying a hit down. In the end, after the first 20 minutes when it was 21-20, where they gave up 267 yards and then 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals, for the next 40 minutes, they only gave up 97 yards, no score. They turned it around quickly. And that's the main thing. This is not the same football team that Lincoln Riley left behind a year ago. And that's the other thing. You continue to hear that from Texas fans.
Sure.
And everybody, 49-0, 49-0. This isn't the same football team.
Look, this game has a ton of playoff implications as well too, and I think it could be a preview to the Big 12 championship matchup as well. So this may not be the end of this rivalry this year, anyways. I think we're going to see this matchup.
Yeah,
again.
I think either way you're probably going to get that. But Kansas State was probably the next best team. They went in and lost to Okie Light last night in Stillwater, which is kind of weird to me. They've lost to Missouri now and Oklahoma State, 2 teams that you expected them to kind of dominate. There's something weird about K-State, and not for nothing, I don't trust West Virginia to really be that team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this is definitely going to be the matchup. And look, the interesting point is it's going to be a neutral site. So that's a big one there, depending. Because look, I think playing at Texas is going to be a tough one for Oklahoma. I've been big on Texas this year, but yeah, after that Rice game, I had a lot of question marks, but they really have found themselves. But like Jake mentioned, I think the fact that Oklahoma hasn't really had to be truly tested might be an advantage there. We thought last week for Florida going into that Kentucky game, Kentucky not having to really face anybody was going to be an advantage. I think it was a disadvantage. I think they were able to really find their bearings their first 4 weeks, right, and kind of get comfortable. Maybe Oklahoma's going to be in that same boat where they haven't really had to been faced, but they're just overly confident, finding their rhythm. I do want to share a clip with you really quick. I just thought it was interesting what Dylan had to say here. Let me share my screen here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Let me get rid of this here so it's not so crowded. I just want to hear what he has to say. I thought it was interesting what he said here.
5-0. You know what's next.
I found it weird that he quoted his height before, talking. I just didn't understand it. Like, I get okay, I know what's next, but why, mention your height before?
I love the narrative. I love all this trashing on Dylan Gabriel too.
I just didn't get it.
That's even, honestly, if you believe it or not, that's even a freaking pastime in Norman. There's some fans that look. He's not.
He's the smallest human I've ever seen. He's the smallest human I've ever seen.
Whatever, bro. He's been good. He's a little bigger than Tua, so
not much.
Those lefty Lions seem to play okay, and it's it's what it is.
So you're taking Boomers to cover 5. You're taking the 5 points. Or you taking them straight up?
Oh man, I'm taking the points all day long. I'll take the win. They're going to cover. Okay. They're going to cover. I believe that. That they go out and win 28-17 is the score that I've had. I think
there it is.
They've only given up 54 points in the 5 games, only 14 after halftime. I like them to win.
I love it. All right, Jason. Thanks, sir. We'll be right back here with you in just a minute, Mo.
All right.
Appreciate you. Gonna be a showdown. I'm looking forward to that big noon kickoff. Texas versus the Sooners. Obviously, if you've been watching the show for a while, I'm a Texas homer. Love me some Longhorns. So again, I've been talking shit to them all week long. I should have worn my Texas jersey. I don't have one, but I might have to get one if they take them down this week, just so I can kind of put it on anytime I need to hop on Jason. So, but let's bring the boys back in here for our last 2 pick'em games. Let's go first order of bits.
Bet on that. Maybe you have to wear an OU shirt if the Sooners get it done this week.
Let's settle.
Let's not do that bet.
I was like, look, then you have to wear a Texas. I'm fine with that.
Never fucking happening.
Yeah, I was like, you're
do the take the blow up doll to dinner, like a legit dinner date with a blow up doll. That's the best one. That's the best one. Like, you have to go, you got to dress up.
Can't be with a good time.
Yeah, she's got to dress up. You got to make a reservation. It doesn't have to be like anything crazy sexual blow up. They could just be like one of nurse's outfit or something. But like go down, have a nice bottle of wine. You have to talk.
You have to
Wow.
carry on conversation for the entirety of dinner.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
gold. That's
Yeah,
gold.
let's just go with money, okay? Let's just go with money.
Cody, out of all the comments, that's the one you decided to choose. You piece of
Yeah.
shit.
The Brave slander. I mean, look, I tolerate a lot of stuff. All right.
That's-
the Brave slander made me
So-
act a fool in here.
Yeah, that's over the top, boys. You're talking about 100 plus baseball team right there. Don't be disrespecting like that. Hey, what time the Mets play today? Do you know, Jake?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the playoffs, so they don't. I
Okay.
wonder what time any New York team plays today. Oh, wait, hold on. I just got to update. They don't because they suck.
Love it. Let's move on. That's how we keep it going, boys. All right, Ty, we're gonna start with you on this one, big guy. We got the Cats versus the Bruins. Bruins favored by 3 here. It is at home, by the way. Who you like and why?
Washington State, the Cam Ward train doesn't stop. Look, I've been on the Washington State train this season. I picked them to win against Oregon State. I'm going to pick them to win against UCLA. Dante Moore is a really fun player. I think he's going to be a really great football player. 5-star coming out of high school. In fact, if we go back to Elite 11, Jason Yall's guy, Oklahoma's quarterback right now, or backup quarterback, Jackson Arnold, won Elite 11 MVP. But if you listen to all the guys that were there, they said one name was right on his heels every single day. It was Dante Moore. Now, I'm not saying that guarantees he's going to be sensational as a freshman, but I'm just excited to see what he's going to do. I don't think it matters, though. Give me Washington State. Cam Ward is putting on a show every single week.
Love it. Jake?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this is one of the upset picks that we had. I mean, I think you can get it for like plus 142, plus 152 last time I saw it. Again, Dante Moore, like Ty said, I think they have a great future. It's kind of weird. This Chip Kelly team is better defensively, especially against the pass. I actually really like the under in this game. But yeah, it seems like Coach Dickert in Washington State, they're as pissed off as anybody about being the only 2 teams left in the Pac-12. I think they're playing like it. I think they're a little bit more physical than what people think, but I don't know if a quarterback has made a bigger jump from a passing standpoint to be able to make all the throws, making better decisions, and just being able to make the nuanced throws, right? It's not just about throwing the fastball. It's not just about throwing the deep ball, throwing hitches, throwing digs, throwing basics, things like that, than Cam Ward. It really shows you. I mean, CJ Kinney is now the head coach at Texas State. He was an incarnate word 2 years ago, how good that team really was, and Cam Ward's made a huge jump. So I think Washington State is just a more balanced team. I think this game is a little bit more low scoring than what people think, but I think Cam Ward makes 1 or 2 more plays than Dante Moore does this year. Now, 2 years from now, I'll probably take Dante Moore in UCLA, but give me Washington State.
Love it. Jason?
You know what? I'm going to go the other way. I think that UCLA is going to get it done, and the reason why is because of their defense. They've been really good the last couple of weeks. If you go and look at, I mean, they go on the road to Utah and almost pulled it out with the team that, you Florida fans know a lot about how tough that Utah team is. Dante, notwithstanding, he's a hell of a player too, and he's been really good this year. I think he struggled a bit at Utah, which is probably why they lost, but I feel like defensively they're in the Rose Bowl as well, and Dante Moore is one of those guys, as both of these guys have talked about. He can throw dudes open. I saw him at the All-American Bowl. He's the real deal.
He's a stud.
I like UCLA here a lot with their defense and the fact that, hey, Wazoo's riding high, and I really like Cam Ward as well, but I do feel like UCLA can get this done here. And I think it's just going to add more carnage to the Pac-12, which we know, you've already seen a lot of it, and you're going to see more.
Yeah, I think the Pac-12 is going to slice it up. Go ahead, Ty.
Are y'all paying attention to what Cody is putting down in the scrolls every time? That's been getting me every single.
I haven't seen it. What is it?
Due to their D. Earlier, he said Jake joins Ty on the Cam Ward hype train. Like every time he's had something different. It's been...
He didn't spell do right. It's D. It's D. Oh Lord. Hey, that's our show though. We don't spell anything right here, so I wouldn't want it to change. All right, this one hurts right here. This one's close to home, so be careful how you guys pick. Jason, I'll start with you. Gators favored by 18.5. 18. It's kind of moving around a little bit here at the end of the day against Vandy at home.
The Swamp last year?
I'm sorry?
Nothing. Sorry. Go ahead.
Who do you got?
No, hey man, I don't really have a dog in this fight, but just since you're picking Texas, I'm gonna go Vandy, particularly with having to give up that many points and being
All
at
right,
home.
Jake, you're up. Anything else you want to say? Go ahead, Jake.
Look, I think Vandy's awful. Their offensive line's really bad. Now, I will say it looks like there's some guys not playing for Florida today. I don't think ETN's playing. They said maybe the center's not going to play. I just saw it. That's why I was looking at my phone, looking at an update there. But, unless just the cheerleaders are going to trade places with Florida, I don't think Florida looks past Vanderbilt after what happened last year. I think they want to kind of get off the schneid in that setting. Give me Florida big because I don't think Vandy can score on this Florida defense, regardless of how bad it played last weekend against Kentucky. And AJ Swan, he's just, back the FEMA trailers up. It's just a disaster every time. So, yeah, Florida covers.
That's how you answer that question, Jason, in case you were wondering.
All good,
yeah, give me Florida, because if they lose this game, you fire everybody into the sun. I mean, like,
fire them into the sun.
Well, I mean, you had
Icarus.
a team you flew too close to the sun, like Icarus. You had a team last week show Florida that we are going to be completely one-dimensional. You know what's going to be coming at you. Can you stop it? The answer was an overwhelming no. So Florida's going to get it back in blood this week. But look, they better. Give me Florida to cover. They're going to beat the hell out of Andy.
Jason, you want to wrap up your thoughts? I'm sorry. I didn't know you were still going.
No, don't. I don't care about that. This game is trash. I mean, I would hope that Billy and them get it done, or else I think that Ty's probably right that
it's gonna be a scary one for the boys. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. All right, boys, let's get into our last little segment here before we get into High Top Table Talk, and that is Parlay Corner. Jake Crane. Ooh, welcome to Parlay Corner. You know what I mean? I'm a dirty little slut for a good parlay, and here we are.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So we had to make a few adjustments. We'll go through them, and Jake will explain. Some of your scientists, I saw you tweet out this morning, made a couple errors last night, and I was putting together.
Yeah, we had to fire one. He got the wrong ingredients, so we fired him, and by fired him, let's just say we took him out back. That's how we roll at the Crane Institute of Parlay Science and other things.
Love the energy.
We want to do good. Yeah. Typically now, if you look on social, I do alternate spreads with some of these other ones. Like these ones are straight up. All right. So the return on this is just like you $10 to win like $3,300. So I do these a lot, have hit a decent amount of them. I do some that are half these big, but if you look on my social media, Jake Crane _, you'll see that, I have like Washington State plus 9.5. So you can take alternate lines, which changes the money, and things like that. So this is kind of the one we have on here. You'll see another one on social media if you want to play a little bit safer. But look, man, we hit this one. The city's getting litty, Shelton. It's getting absolutely litty. So look, I'm going, and I do want to take a second, if you wouldn't mind. Last week we got screwed over by Akron. Okay, their quarterback got hurt halfway through the game. So I would like to take this time to tell everybody associated, Joe Moorhead, everybody associated with the Akron program, I will never forgive you. I will never forget this, and I wish all the bad things happen to you and only you. So okay, now I got that out of the way.
Yeah, I've got a bone to pick too. So the Zips, we had a player, Lorenzo Lingard. He was a running back for Florida Gators. He transferred to the Zips. So I've got we did a couple videos with the Zips. I've got like a feeling, a soft spot for the Zips because of that. I did a parlay back in March when March Madness was going on, because obviously it's parlay heaven. I mean, my goodness.
Oh God, I love it. Yeah, it's great.
It's nonstop. Just dial me up one, and I'm all in. I don't care. I'll blindly follow you into that abyss, because you never know what's going to happen. I had a 7-legger going. Akron Zips was the team that I needed to complete it, and they failed me.
It's always the last one. You want to be sick? You want to be sick? My wife had a 14-leg parlay. This guy was week 1 or week 2, and she had the under in the Penn State game, and all Penn State had to do was take a knee or let the clock run out at the end, and James Franklin ran that extra play, and they scored that touchdown as time expired. But it gets even worse. The next week, I'd have said, this is proven, I post on social media, I had a 17-legger to win $2,200, and all Minnesota had to do was beat Northwestern. Not cover, not over under. They're beating Northwestern
That's a lot.
31-10 in the fourth quarter, and they lost. So, like I told him, PJ Fleck, you can row that boat right off a waterfall, dog. Never forget, never forgive. I hope Minnesota never wins another. I hope Michigan beats them so bad that they have to secede from the Union and have to become a banana republic state. Like, that's how bad I want it to be. But anyway, that's bringing up bad. Listen to this, though. Too legit to coach. That's the first week sports gambling was allowed in the state of Pennsylvania. And you tell me he didn't want Penn State to cover and that touchdown helped Penn State cover? Man, controversy. I want my money back.
Just hearing how close you are just gets me sweating. You know what I mean? Like it just fires me up.
I've hit like 4 or 5 of them that have gone for like $500, $600, but it's that big one. It's that great white buffalo, right? It's that one you're chasing. You're just trying to just chase it down and hunt it down. You're just throwing spears and arrows at it and rocks and stones and sticks.
I like this parlay a lot. The only one that I'm questioning is the A&M one, but let's get into it. So you got Army money line.
Yes.
Got to feel
Love
good
it.
about that.
Love
Iowa
it.
money line. Who are they up against today?
Purdue, or as I call them, Perdon't. It's going to take Ryan Walters some time.
Love it. Dogs versus money line. We've talked enough about them today, I think, to solidify that W. Notre Dame versus Louisville. Close, a testy one, but Notre Dame found themselves last week.
Should be better. They play methodical, but Notre Dame up front should be able to run the ball. Jack Plummer, I mean, he's made more bad decisions than me when I was 18 the last couple games. I just don't trust it.
Ole Miss. Who are they up against?
Arkansas at home.
Oh, you're liking the money line then. Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, they're like 12-point favorite. Arkansas just falling apart. Sam Pittman, it may be over. They lose this one, they got to go to Bama. That's 5 straight losses. Ooh, Dan Enos is emailing students back, allegedly.
A&M is getting 2 points here. On your alternative spread on Twitter, you moved it.
Yeah, I hate 2 or 2.5. I hate it. Games are typically 1 in 3s and 7s. I took A&M 7.5 plus 7.5, which obviously lowered the odds, but it's when you do a 13-leg parlay, I mean, you're still making a lot of money. But this is basically picking. DraftKings does. Jay Forte, you can do up to 20. But yeah, this is basically picking A&M money line. That's what it is. But maybe it's a 1-point game. Maybe Bama's down by 2 and kicks a field goal or something. I took the Saints plus 1.5 against the Packers a couple weeks ago, and that worked out because the Packers went for 2 and then scored a touchdown, kicked the extra point to win by 1. But yeah, I got that. Then Florida, I got Florida at 13.5, but we're not doing alternate spreads on here. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to ride with the Lightning. I don't think Vandy can score. Oregon State at Cal, money line. Washington State, I got them at +3. I took them plus 9.5 on the alternate spread on my other one. I think they're going to win. Missouri plus the 5.5. I got them as plus 11.5 on the other one. And then Kansas, right, +2. I got them plus 7.5 on the alternate spread, but I think they beat UCF today. And then Texas and Wisconsin money line. And there it is, right? And the rent's paid, and your wife loves you again. Right, you can go buy that. You can go buy that new cool jacket that you saw when you walked by Johnson Murphy this last time in the mall.
So, real quick, we're not financial advisors, but asking for your cranium expertise here. Should we leave A&M off this legger here?
If I was going to eliminate, if I was going to eliminate 1 or 2 of these, it would probably be A&M and Kansas. Those would be the 2 that I'm a little bit nervy about, just because they're plus 2.
You can't alternate. Yeah, you can't alternate.
Yeah, because I can't alternate them. The other ones, I mean, I feel great about. Even Missouri, if you could get Missouri up to plus 7.5 on the alternate, that's great. Lose by a touchdown and still cover. Washington State, I mean, by the hook at 3.5, right? I don't feel bad about that. But it's the +2. Those are the ones that get you. The +2s and the plus 2.5s, because then they lose by a field goal and you lose. But if this one hits, dog.
So maybe you sprinkle a little $5 ched on this, and then throw a $7 ched on the alternative, because again, you're using my money.
What do you got to lose?
You're using the MyBookie Hightop code. You can't alter the spread like old Jake can. So
you go into your parents' room, you lift that mattress up, you take that $20 and you put it on the Crane-Pythagorean theorem parlay of the week. All right, it's not stealing if you return more than you took.
We're bound to get there. We're honing in on this thing. The science has been heavy at work. I like this
Yeah.
one a lot here. You're still good about the 18 for the Gators because you said you had it up 14.
I am. Yeah, I don't think you'd be crazy to buy it down to 16.5, right? What did I say? Sevens. Games are 1s and 7s and 3s. So if they win by 17, you still cover. But like I think Florida rolls today, even with the injuries.
Okay.
I think they absolutely roll.
They got to. So A&M and Kansas, the alternative one. If not, this is the one you're rocking with. I think you should definitely throw some cheddar on it. You like A&M straight out anyways. So like you said, maybe you take A&M money line. It spices that thing up even more than what we're talking
So you
about.
take A&M money line. Look, now all of a sudden, a lot of things are different. Hey, well, why am I hanging out with Instagram models and stuff like that? Like, what happened?
Oh my goodness, this is incredible. Jake, thank you for your Parlays Corner. I'll see you in just a minute. Parlay Corner there with Mr. Jake Crane and the Crane Ethereum. That was a great one there. But now we got to show you guys another graphic because we have of course, the highly awaited for Hightop Table Talk. Jake Crane has yet to go down. Could we see a mix-up this week? Let's get it.
Oh my God, Ty!
He's got props. I already hold on.
What happened?
He know. Hey, he is done. He's not playing games.
What's so funny?
Oh, Blaze!
I took off my hat. I don't know what y'all want. I took off the hat.
Ty looks like he's either about to get into a NASCAR and go race, or he just signed like the next country music star.
Both.
All the above. Ty automatically is coming in hot with a +5. That's
okay. It worked then, Ty. Hold on. Let me get something. Hold on.
What do you want me to do? I love it. I love the
no, it's great. It's great. Touche. Hey, by the way though, you guys, you got to go watch the show from yesterday. My Blaine, my brother Blaine.
I saw that.
Oh my God, dude, he dressed up like Jimmy Butler,
Yes.
like he went goth and emo. Dude, you got it. It's so funny, bro. Oh my God, and he talked like it the whole time, like he.
I saw
We're
him
just constantly playing Blink 182 throughout the show.
Tonight will be the night I will fall for you.
Righteous.
Again.
Dude, he painted his nails with Sharpie on it because he had like eyeliner on.
It was great.
I loved it. I thought that was fantastic. Jimmy Butler is Sam. I love me Jimmy Butler. They need to get it done this year though.
Jimmy Butler.
Himmy Butler is right. We got some questions lined up for the boys. Again, they don't know what the questions are coming into the show. If you're new here, this Hightop Table Talk. How great your response is how many points you will receive. Again, Jake is the defending champion as of now. It's been close the last few weeks. I think I got it wrong. According to the chat, though, I got it wrong last week, Jake. So we might have an asterisk next to your name for last week. They were high on Allie. But I spoke with the producers after the show. I think we got it right. It was close, though. All right.
How does Allie not win just by showing up? What the hell?
This 2023, Jason, you stop that, all right?
Yeah,
it's 2023. It's all equal, dog.
We're not handing out trophies.
The best creator out here. What are we talking about?
Allie wouldn't want it that way. She's got to earn her stripes. Look, she left some points on the table. We gave her some feedback after the fact. I don't make the rules. All right, I do make.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
All right, Jake. Jamie, I'm gonna start with you first. If Brian Kelly loses this matchup, does his seat warmer get turned on in the Suburban?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we all know the pressure on all these games, and when you're in the SEC and in a place like LSU, it's going to make it warmer. But I think he's got to get rid of a coordinator, and obviously, you're not going to fire the offensive coordinator with the way that you've been playing. So if they lose this game and it's a track meet, I think Matt is going to have to go to the house. I think he's going to be fired. You look at the way this LSU defense has played. I know the defensive line coach. They had a medical problem, had to elevate a younger guy. Then they bring in, Pete Jenkins, who's the same age as Gandalf. They're going to a 4-down front. You need to simplify it, right? Addition by subtraction. LSU has the personnel to be able to go in there and fix it. It's a lot different than, let's say, South Carolina's offensive line, where there's not a combination of magic, witchery, motivational speeches, or scheme that can help that. They were just beat at birth. This LSU team has Wingo running around, Mason Smith running around, Harold Perkins. Let him rush the passer. For the love of God, what are y'all doing? So play faster, make it simpler. You have the athletes, but yeah, the heat will get turned up, and Matt will, like I said, probably get sent to the house if it's a bad defensive performance. You got to show progress that you're willing to make a change.
At the buzzard. Love it. Ty? Or, wait, is there a name that we're doing today that I should be aware of?
I didn't get to change it in time, but I showed up to the Wednesday live stream, the Texas OU one. I officiated it, and I am Blaze Hayes right now.
Blaze Hayes.
Blaze Hayes.
Blaze Hayes. On to you, sir. You know what?
Billy
Just for that, I'm going to give you a couple points.
So listen, here's the thing, guys. Will Brian Kelly be on the hot seat? No, he probably shouldn't, but we know that LSU is one of those jobs that the expectations are really high. Look, the only thing that's worse than this fake mullet is the fake Southern accent. Brian Kelly already came into the situation trying to prove he was one of the people. All he needed to do was show up and win football games. I mean, my goodness gracious, that's what they care about. He gave up 700 yards to Lane Kiffin. That's unacceptable for LSU. Their best player, they have self-selected out of the defense. So, yes, the seat will be hot. Now, whether it should or not, that's a completely different question. But fans are illogical by nature, right? Like, you look at NIL, you look at the college football sphere, it's illogical by nature. I don't think he'll be fired. Matt House, I think Jake is 100% right. If they lose this game, he is gone, because there's no way that you lose to another Tigers in the SEC that's not Auburn if you're LSU.
Real quick, we made some adjustments last week. I gave Jake a point there. When you piggyback off somebody's point, Allie made the point because, again, she kind of got tagged along. That look,
well,
I think it's
here's the logical fallacy here. If it's a yes or no question and I go third, there's only two possibilities. So you were giving points off of what am I supposed to invent a new word?
No. You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything wrong.
You know what I'm saying, man? Blaze,
if you're agreeing with
the heat.
You're doubling down on what Jake's saying. I'm going to give Jake some credit for it. That's all. You don't have to agree with him.
Jake
Allie brought up a good point that if you're all going to agree with how well she said it, you can say the same thing but differently. Look, don't shoot the messenger.
Hey, no qualms here. Look, I'm over here hanging out.
Blaze is in it to win it.
Blaze is talking some shit.
Blaze is in it to win it.
Yeah, bro. Well, dude, he was turtleneck and socks hat early. He's like, it's gonna be a great day. He puts the mullet on. He's like, hey, fuck this shit. All right, you guys, this piece of shit show.
Oh, Billy Ray Cyrus showed up to the party.
Yeah, turned it on.
Blaze is tired of losing.
Yeah, fair enough. Hit me, Jason.
Hey, if they lose this game, yeah, I can see him getting fired. And what the hell are they doing with Harold Perkins, by the way? The first game of the year, they've got it dropping him back into freaking coverage, and they haven't found a way to get this defense going at all. If you are giving up that many points to anybody at LSU with the kind of talent they have year after year after year after year, yeah, it's a problem. They already don't like the dude because he freaking has a fake accent. He's from freaking Boston, for God's sakes. It doesn't really fit LSU so much, and all of a sudden now they're not winning football games. Beating Alabama at home and then getting clapped by A&M and Georgia doesn't exactly put you on the best of ground coming into season 2. Now you've lost twice to Florida State, which that's not okay either. I don't see this going very well for you if you lose to Missouri. Missouri, come on, man. I can't even see it. They've fired people for less.
They fired people for less at the buzzard. You're giving me a juicy one there. I like that. All right. I'm afraid to do the scoring here with Blaze up in the top corner. They freaking me out. I don't know how to handle my business.
Found some cherry bombs in your mailbox.
Yeah, holy crap. This is something else here. I don't.
You're entering the danger zone.
Yeah. Blaze, going to you first. Hold on, let me get rid of this. Let me go ahead and get some juiciness here. All right. Is Kentucky, we kind of already hinted towards it, but I want to get everyone's final thought. Is Kentucky the real deal? Again, we've kind of already had an opinion about it, but now you got to close it down strong. Or did we just get a bad game from Florida, and Florida really, and maybe Florida either is really bad or just had an off game and made Kentucky look look way better than they should have? Blaze, over to you, big guy.
Kentucky's a good team, but there's no doubt in my mind that when they got over Florida and how they got it is propelling a lot of hype, and deservedly so. But that's why Georgia's going to shut it down real quick today. That's why I'm taking Georgia. The old cat that was here, Ty, he didn't know about spreads. Blaze knows all about the spread. Blaze knows all about the spread, and there was never even a question whether or not Georgia was going to cover that. They are going to show everybody that Kentucky might be a good team. They're well coached. They are doing really well, but they are not on the level of Georgia. They are not on that level just yet. They took advantage of a Florida defense that couldn't stop something they knew was coming at them for 4 quarters. Kentucky's going to get shown today. There are absolutely levels to this. Georgia is going to win that game big.
They're not.
Well, before I go to you, Jason, Blaze is bringing out all the stops here, boys. He is literally tired of losing. He went back to the dressing room this past week, adjusted, and made some moves. And
I took notes.
He did. I could tell these.
I can read. Blaze can't.
He's taking my way. He goes, my way of debating is not appealing to the host. I've got to spice it up a little bit, and I appreciate it. I really do. I really do. I might be just blinded because it's a phenomenal mullet. I'm a slut for a mullet. Jake's like, what can I do last minute here? What can I do? I'm a sucker for a good gimmick. You know what I mean? I think we can all talk a good game, but when you add a little more flavor to it, I'm all in. All right, enough of me yammering. Jason, need a big pull here, bub.
Yeah. Look, I don't see whatever level they might be getting to at Kentucky is never probably going to be the level that they're at in Athens. I don't see any way possible. I said this earlier, styles make fights. This style is what Georgia is used to. You want to try to play smash mouth football, you're going to get your ass kicked playing against these guys. You saw it with Michigan 2 years ago in the playoff. They came in doing the same thing, and they weren't able to do it. The one team that could do anything with them was Ohio State. They have a track meet style deal. This is not what Kentucky is. And that, if you're going to play the same game as somebody else, you better have the players, and they don't have it. That's just all there is to it. I mean, I don't even know where we are on time. So
you're good. You have 10 seconds. You're good. I hit the little buzzard, so I let you just ramble on. You ain't got to worry about the time.
Oh,
but
okay.
Jake.
Yeah, look, y'all know where I stand. Here's my thing. People got to stop doubting Georgia. Stop doing it. You're making them stronger. You realize this is what Kirby wants. You're playing right into his hands, like right into his hands. He learned from Nick Saban, the brain manipulator, one of the greatest brainwashers of the 21st century. You are playing right into this man's hands. Stop doing it. You want Georgia to lose? Tell him how great they are. Make it impossible for him to convince his team that everybody else thinks they're bad. Because here's what's going to happen today. Kentucky's going to go in there and get slaughtered. Absolutely slaughtered. Like lambs walking in to get slaughtered. Like pigs on a farm. And guess what's going to happen? People are going to keep doubting them. They're going to say, oh, well, Kentucky's not that good because Florida's not that good. And it's going to happen week after week after week after week. Then you're going to see Georgia undefeated playing in the SEC championship game and looking like the Avengers. The only thing that's going to be missing is Nick Fury walking around with an eye patch trying to convince everybody that he's really not a piece of shit. So stop giving Georgia ammunition. This is what they want.
Bravo.
I love it here, dude.
Well, I mean, like, have you nobody figured this out yet? Am I like that? This isn't the Maze Runner or a Rubik's Cube. We're not trying to figure out Enigma at Bletchley Park. Stop doing it. You're helping this man out.
I couldn't agree more. I thought this. So this year, I mentioned it at the SEC Media Day. Because coming in, I think they were still the favorite, right? At the beginning of this year, nobody knows what we're going to get. So they're dealing with this new challenge of we're back-to-back. I can't play the woe is me card anymore. And he had this great spiel about how they went and saw this. He did some study about some team and New Zealand, some rugby team, the greatest team of all time that's never lost, and how they manage that. And that was his approach to it. I was like, that's a phenomenal approach. Like, you're now owning that you're the shit. And that, but like they're right back where we started, where they like, hey, nope, we say you suck again. So all the training they did all season is useless because we're feeding right back into what works well, and that is making them woe is me.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Again, you're just giving another flaming sword to Optimus Prime. Please stop doing it.
I love it. All right, this is a great question to start with Jason with. Does the winner of the Red River, does basically this game today solidify, does it lock in a Final Four spot for the Big 12? Is this going to be the preview for a Final Four spot, or is there going to be more that shapes out that this isn't going to be the final game that locks in that spot? Jason, starting with you, Beb.
Look, if it if Texas wins this, I think it almost surely puts them in it, as long as they don't do Texas stuff and go gag their way all the way through the rest of the regular season. I think that Oklahoma kind of needs to win it in order to be able to get into the playoff at the end of the season. I think they would probably have to win twice. The way that things are shaking up throughout the rest of the country, I have a hard time believing that they're going to put two Big 12 teams into championship contention anyway, because of the rest of the league is trash. You know, as we talked about Kansas State getting beat last night, I really believe that you're going to need to probably win both of them to get in. That's okay with me if for Oklahoma. I don't know that that's, you know, because of their record or their schedule that they have. It's tough. If you don't win this game, you're probably out of contention unless you were to blow them out in the last game of the year. Of course, the Big 12 championship. I think it's going to be tough.
Good points there. Jake, over to you, sir.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think this is going to be the first of two times that these teams play. When I look at Texas, I mean, which game's more important? This one, which is on a neutral site, or possibly the Big 12 championship, which we know if you win your conference championship and you only have one loss, they're going to put you in. You played the last game and you won the last game, even if you're 1-1, and the schedules will be somewhat more even when we get to the end of the year. But I'll tell you what I think makes this Texas team different. I think this Texas team they haven't done enough in the recent past to be able to overlook anybody else, right? I think they've kind of found that honey hole with this team. You have experience, you have older guys. It's different when you're trying to be the first to do something in a while, as opposed to being just the next class to actually do it. If Texas were to drop this game, I think they do play Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship. So it's really just a big insurance game. I don't know another way to put it. It's one of the biggest insurance games of the year. You almost buy yourself a loss, almost, you know, maybe if you win it throughout the conference, maybe you have a chance to sneak in the conference championship game. But yes, I do think the winner of this game, you can go ahead and pencil in Big 12 championship and possibly the playoff.
Got the buzzer there. All right, Blaze Hayes, can you close it down strong? Can we see an upset for this evening? Talk to me dirty.
Listen, I think that this game is important. There's no doubt about it. But ultimately, because they will meet again in the Big 12 championship, that's the game where it is ultimately the most important. One thing we know about the Texas Longhorns, and I understand Steve Sarkisian is not responsible for the sins of the father, but one thing we also have to understand, before Texas can be back, they have to make it there, right? Before we can claim they're back, they have to make it there. Texas has got to get to that Big 12 championship game and then go to the college football playoffs, because far too many times we've seen them get that big win and then turn around and drop inexcusable games. And the same can be said about Oklahoma, not that them saying that they have a history of doing such, but their schedule, both Texas and Oklahoma, does not allow for a loss outside of those two teams. So if one team wins today, but then they drop a game to another Big 12 opponent after this, they're in trouble, because the Big 12 is in trouble right now. They are not the conference we thought they would be. Kansas State can't stop teams from scoring on them. That's tough to watch. They will meet again, but the Big 12 championship, that's the most important game.
Well done, Ty. Look, I'm not going to say it was the mullet that got it done, but if you think about it, you had a 5-point spread coming.
Listen. If you can't beat Jake off of analysis alone, you go get a sexy ass mullet.
Oh well, look, man, it's great. I think it's fantastic, dog. I think you look great.
I might not go back.
I don't think you should. I think. Are you slowly turning into the guy from Split? Like, you gonna come on here next time and be like 6 years old?
And I don't know about that one. I might go and revert, but we'll see. You know, as long as the wife doesn't relegate me to outside for seeing the mullet, we'll be good. We'll be good.
I don't know if you have enough costumes to get you through the year, but I love it. Look, I think.
I can make magic happen. You don't worry about that.
Okay, look, I think it was needed. I think you did a great job of pulling out there. Congratulations to Ty. Ty, before we kind of wrap the show up, let's hear your final thoughts for winning the Hightop Table Talk today.
Yeah, listen, like I said, sometimes analysis just ain't enough. So you got to go get real sexy real quick. And sometimes you just need some Shady Mile bourbon with your nice wig.
Bro.
And that's what's going to bring it home.
With the turtleneck, with the rattle, this is incredible. Like, you can't make this shit up. This is 10 times better than College Game Day. It is for certain.
This thing's glowing.
I've got to be way more prepared next time whenever I show up, just with bullshit.
This is awesome.
What's in there, Jake?
I don't know. Apparently like kryptonium or something. I don't know. I just put Gatorade Zero.
Shiny,
but
bro. Look at that. Wow.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's like glowing. Is that a sponsorship?
Yeah. Well, Power Slap. We the
Plutonium in there?
UFC thing where the guys stand up and slap each other. So we went out to the one in Vegas a couple months ago, and we're going out to the one on the 25th. So I watched Dana White and Taylor DeWine bet 30 grand a hand in blackjack and wanted to just throw up. They'd lose, be like, ha ha ha.
We're over here sweating
like,
our parlay. Oh man, hell of a show! Congratulations again to Ty, man. Look,
yeah,
you guys
Ty, good job,
me.
buddy.
Sometimes words, I love words, but I love a good song and dance. Jason had a good run with a whiteboard. A buddy of mine brought me a whiteboard the next day after watching the show. So I love the.
You might get a mullet. You might get a mullet this time.
I love the energy. I appreciate you guys putting that on for us every Saturday. It's an absolute blast. It's been fun. This has turned into something really cool and special. So I appreciate it, gentlemen. Ty, we'll start with you, man. Tell them where they can find you and how they can show some love.
Yeah, you can find me at Around the Table Sports, so you're on YouTube, always talking college football. We just like to have a good time.
Crane, let them know.
Yeah, you can find me. It's very easy. YouTube, Crane & Company, CRAIN and Company. Come hang out over there. It's a great time. Live call-ins, live chat. We like to have a good time too.
Jason.
At JW_HOF on Twitter and at CFB-pod on YouTube. Hall of Fame College Football. And hey, you guys are wrong. Texas is going to get that ass beat today. This is how it's going to be.
Under an hour.
I love it, gentlemen. That is the show. We have an hour until kickoff, big noon kickoff. You guys are incredible. Make sure you guys go follow all those young men. They're an absolute blast. Today has been an absolute blast. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. Shout out to the professor as well for his fingering work. That didn't work either.
There's that mule's leg again.
Behind his what work?
And the Blaze Hayes bringing out the mullet. Guys, be good. Love you. Go Gators. Like and subscribe.